Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's Happening Dracut. Today is July 5th, 2023, and this is your post-July 4th show for Dracut. What's Happening Dracut? We are happy to be here tonight. We're happy to have you here come along for our ride. Thanks for joining us. We are in our overly ostentatious, beautiful studios here at DATV. I'm having a Joe Biden moment here. We're going to give you information tonight that you can't get anywhere else. We're going to talk about issues that won't be heard anywhere else. So we want you to get up, get your popcorn, come back in that seat and buckle up for a good ride, because we're here and we're back after being off for the month of June. Sorry that we didn't have any live shows during the month of June, but we had a lot going on, both personally, all of us, and weather-wise and what have you. So we just couldn't get the schedule right. But in the house with us tonight is the best architect in the country, who resides in Dracut, Massachusetts, who can't get himself on any committees here in Dracut, and that's Philip Tebow.
Hey, good evening.
How are you, Philip?
Oh, I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
How's the world going?
Well, you know, it's doing fine. Like you said, it's difficult for me to get onto a board in Dracut. There was the Cultural Commission that had I think they still have an opening, but I'm sure the Board of Selectmen believe I do not have culture, so.
Oh, yeah.
It's unlikely that'll get
But we're going to get into it later on, that the second most knowledgeable person in zoning got whacked in the last month, right? So we're going to talk about that as we go on. So stay tuned, folks. We have some news about a person who's been removed from the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee. Wow.
Oh, it's something.
You know, there's so much cronyism going on here in town. How's the family doing now?
They're doing well. You know, we spent a quiet Fourth. Right. Of course, with the weather, it was hard to really make some plans, but it cleared up towards the end, and I heard the fireworks going off, and I spent them quietly in the house.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. My cats were under the bed because they're afraid of the fireworks, and they just run and hide. So any fireworks that goes off over the 4th, right under the bed, they're gone. But we have it also in the house, the one, the only Teflon Don of Dracut Access Television, and a guy that can't get a basketball job here in Dracut.
Nope.
Right?
We're all banned.
Gordy Scott.
Everyone's banned.
Everybody's banned.
Everyone's banned.
So how you doing, Gordy?
Good. I've been coaching the Summer League, varsity boys. That's been doing good. We had a huge win last week.
Good.
Against Lynn English, undefeated Lynn English.
Well, don't get too far into it, because we're going to talk about that after we get through this malarkey, as the president would say. But how's everything else going? The family good?
Good.
Did you go
I
anywhere?
told you before we came live, I'm doing my sugar diet.
Oh, yeah. Sugar-free diet.
Sugar-free, no sugar for 14 days.
Are you shaking yet?
No, but it's not easy. I'm on day 2, and it's pretty hard. So I'm going to try to keep going. We'll see what happens.
Are we on Facebook Live here? Because I'm
getting something.
On. For some reason, mine is not coming up.
You're having technical difficulties tonight. You're banned from Facebook.
Well, you know,
everyone's banned. You're banned from Facebook.
Would it surprise us that we got some gremlins in the house today? After all, we know that somebody had taped a show earlier tonight.
Well,
so
you
never know.
I noticed this morning that Facebook was kind of choppy and slow for me.
Yeah, I think it's just overall not in very good
Maybe
shape.
the government is slowing them down.
I don't see it on my Facebook page here, but do you have it?
I have it going
All right,
on here.
so you can be able to fill people in, and maybe I can get it during the show. But if you're interested in joining us in the conversation, you're welcome to call us, and the number here is at 958-957-4243. You can catch us on Facebook Live. Hopefully we're up and running. I'm not getting it, but Phil says we are. And also, you can catch us after the show by going to dracuttv.org. I got it right.
Got it right.
And you can go to the on demand and catch us on demand whenever you want to.
Or you can get us on YouTube. We have our YouTube channel. We usually post it the day after. So we're on episode 52. Actually, what's happening, Dracut?
Absolutely, 52. But I got to tell you something. We are experiencing some issues in town that are quite disturbing. you know, and we're going to get into that in about a minute. But until we do, you can also join us on our Facebook page by liking us and following us. And we like to get our numbers boosted up as much as possible. We're approaching almost 3,000 people.
That's great.
And we had some really good numbers in the month of May. We had averaging about 11,000 people looking at our pages. And we are also now a part of Inside Lowell, right?
Yes,
Phil is a
that's
writer
correct.
for a guest writer, right?
Yeah.
Well, how are you doing with that? You got a new article?
I'm working on a new one regarding existing buildings and the building code. So,
Oh, very good. Now, you're not much of an issue. You're not much of a guru on zoning, right?
no. I was only
Yeah,
on,
right.
I was only on planning board
You
for
have
14 years.
14 years on the planning board, folks. This guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to that. But you can also make sure that you catch Gordy at the basketball.
Yes.
At the basketball courts. Where do you play, Gordy? All over the place?
We're in 2 leagues, actually. Methuen League at the Methuen High School, and Lawrence at Lawrence High School. So we
Sure.
play Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So remember again, folks, to call in if you'd like.
I'd like to also remind, because Sean Kelly gave me a reminder that Mill City Weather is also a part of Inside Lowell.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
That's right. He is. And by the way, speaking of Sean, we do have a report, but we don't have Sean here in studio today. So we're going to pass the baton off to
I'll try to fill.
our fill-in weatherman, Sean. Let's see if you like what he does. Maybe you have a job for him somewhere along the line. And we're going to put up the weather report now from Mill City Weather and Sean Kelly, but making the report is Gordy Scott. Go ahead, Gordy.
All right, Dracut. Foggy conditions likely to start off your Thursday morning. Partly sunny to mostly sunny on Friday. There is a chance for a pop-up shower or storm after 3 o'clock on Friday. Saturday will feature more clouds around compared to Friday, with a chance for, again, some more organized showers after 1. Just what everyone at home wants to hear, more rain. Going into next week, the weather is looking unsettled yet again, with high temps reaching into the low 80s by Thursday. So far, since June 1st, Dracut has received over 9 inches of rain. The normal is 5 inches, and the record is just over 12 inches, set back in 1998.
Wow. Can you imagine that, folks? We're back at the studio here.
So now we can blame you.
And
Yes,
not
for the
Sean.
rain, for the rain.
so you're coaching basketball. Now, what age group are you coaching?
Varsity boys.
Varsity boys. And which team are you coaching? Are you coaching Dracut boys?
Boys varsity.
And
yeah.
that's an off-season type thing. And
Right, just to get them in, kind of keep them in shape, keep them around basketball. They struggled last year. They were 1-19, and we started off pretty slow. We were 0-7 to start, and we've won the last 4. We almost beat Lawrence.
Wow.
Was
Lawrence was in the tournament last year.
Yes,
right?
they went to the state championship.
Wow.
And we beat Lynn English, which was a huge win. Boys were very excited. We've got four wins in a row, and hopefully we play North Andover next week. It's going to be a tough one. They're really good.
So you have some contact with the varsity coach. What's his name?
Dave Parent, yep. Good guy, great guy.
Great guy. Is he a Dracut guy?
He's a Dracut guy, yep.
He is. Okay. So in the past, you were asked to coach.
Yes,
And you were blocked,
correct.
right? But you didn't really.
The coach wasn't really given any answers.
Really?
Yep.
And that coach was Parent?
No, this was Albert Hale,
Oh, that was the former coach.
former coach.
So
yep.
now-
And he's at Roxbury now. He's asked me to come, and last year, I think it was last year, I did
Roxbury
the
Community College.
College, yes.
Right. So, yeah.
So,
there's a
and I
difference.
went and did the clock. He did feel bad that I was unable to get a job there. I think it has to do with the appearance, maybe, possibly, of the show. I don't know.
Oh, yeah?
But,
you think the show has something to do with it?
yes, I do.
You think you think anything concerning your stand on school spending and stuff of that
Yep.
nature? Your
Back in the
vocal.
day, yep.
So free speech ends at the borders of Dracut, right?
Right. And, I told the coach he wanted me to be on his staff, and I said, I had a conversation with him. I said, I don't think it's going to happen based on previous issues I've had with the school. And it's too bad. I love the kids. The kids are really picking up in the summer. We're doing really well now. It's just unfortunate, I can't be part of that. But, politics is what they are. Phil knows very well how politics play in committees and whatnot. But just surprised that, I feel bad for the kid. I don't care. I mean, I wouldn't even take a salary. I would just do it because I love coaching basketball.
you
I've spent time with the kids. So
Gordy,
you know.
do you think it's political? Do you think
Yes.
it's political revenge? And do
Yep.
you have proof of that somewhere along the line?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to disclose it though,
Yep.
do you? Not yet, but we have information, and we will confirm it. And at some point, we'll have to bring it out because that's what we do here on Dracut.
Yep.
What's happening, Dracut? Don't you think that's terrible? What's going
Oh,
on?
it is.
I mean,
It is.
doesn't only happen on the Board of Selectmen, and now it's on the school committee.
And I think you've heard me say it over and over again in Dracut, it's never politics, it's always personal.
So before we get into all the other rantings of our night tonight, I wanted to take a minute to honor the memory of Gail Meliaris Golick. We were saddened during the month of June to find out that Gail had an emergency episode late on a Sunday night, and that she was rushed to the hospital, and in the wee hours of the morning, Gail passed. Gail was an enormous personality here in Dracut. If you were ever in politics in Dracut, you knew that she was always involved with someone. She is her maiden name is Meliaris, and so we send our condolences out to the Meliaris family, but even more importantly, we send our condolences out to Hank Golick, who is her spouse, and he now has to go on without her after being with her for over 30 years. The community really liked Gail a lot. She was a very, very gregarious individual, very well-spoken and outspoken. What did you have to say? Anything?
Oh, she was just larger than life. I mean, full of life, full of joy. Always a pleasure to talk with. And politically, it would always be very frank with you and tell you what you needed to hear, not what you wanted to hear.
Right.
But she was a blessing.
Yes, and she always supported my candidacies, and I know she
And
supported
mine,
yours.
yes.
And you know, I know she took some family grief over supporting mine because her brother was sometimes in the race with me. But you know, she was with me. She stuck to her word and stuck to her commitment. And Gail, we miss you, and Hank, we really heartfeltly send our condolences to you again, and hope that you are doing well. I did have coffee with Hank week before last, before I went on vacation, and he's down in the dumps, obviously. I mean, he didn't do much without her, you know, and they were a fixture together. Did you know Gail?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So, what did you know her from? Just
from Phil's campaigns, and
Yep.
when we went to political events, she was always there. She always reached out, always give you a hug, right? She was always that kind of person that wasn't shake hands, it was giving a hug, and
right.
always a smile. So great woman, she'll be missed.
So Nate, if you could throw that picture back up there one more time, and we are honored to have said that Gail Meliaris Golick was a big fan of What's Happening Dracut, and you will be missed, Gail. God bless. May your memory be eternal. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get some rumors and rantings out there. Do you have any rumors and rantings?
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know. Let's point in a direction.
All right, let me give you a direction. How about political cronyism at its worst in Dracut? You know, rumor has it that Allison and Brian Genest's protege here in Dracut politics, John McDonald, whom they sponsored to get the Varnum Award, is leaving town. My rumor sources have come around and said that his house, his condo, was listed in foreclosures from Tennis Plaza, and that he was on the verge of leaving town if he hasn't already left town. So there was a very good Varnum Award person, moves into town, isn't here quite 2 years, gets nominated by a person who lives in Lowell, which I can't figure that out. Phil.
I was going to say, I don't recall him being in town for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
And I was somewhat flabbergasted when I heard that he was being nominated. Mind you, he did fantastic work with Veterans Helping Veterans.
Yeah, we don't argue
so,
with that, but he did that in Lowell.
He did that in Lowell, and he's done that essentially elsewhere. And to get the Varnum Award, you're thinking this is somebody who has really dedicated themselves to Dracut in some fashion.
Right.
Right. I was just, like I said, flabbergasted.
I know that
you couldn't find somebody else.
Well, I know that, Moose Morosky was nominated for that same award during that same period of time. And because there were at least 2 votes on that Varnum committee, one being Allison Janess, right? You knew that Moose wasn't going to get that because Moose would support you and he supports us, me, and our show. So you knew he wasn't going to get that. But poor Moose, who's spent a lifetime here, I mean, he's 84 years young, and he's still involved somewhat in different.
Absolutely,
things.
he would be what you would normally term a fixture in Dracut.
Right. So, Dracut politics is not unusual, and you've got a long way to go before you get to the Moose Morosky level, right, Gordy?
Yeah.
And he couldn't get that award. They wouldn't give it to him because they wanted their political crony John McDonnell to get it, and now. He's gone. Like that, poof, he's gone. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
So this past year, I was talking with Rebecca Duda. She was also on the committee. And I asked her why there's only essentially one award given. And I said I think it should be given to at least a half dozen people every year. Because when you have it as a single award, it looks like a competition. And Rebecca said it is absolutely not a competition. I said, well, one way to get rid of that sort of veil is to have more than one person.
Yeah.
If you're not getting nominations, go out and seek them.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm not getting the live feed.
The live feed?
Well, I still have it here. We get
Okay. Any other comments?
about a dozen people on. Just many people watching.
Very good.
Heidi Kimberowitz said the kids
Heidi,
love Gordy.
they do.
Thank
But
you,
Heidi, it's like everything else in Dracut. If you have an opinion, you become persona non gratas when you have an opinion over here. And the only way you get to have an opinion and have, as long as it's their opinion, right? It's too bad, but that's the way it is in Dracut. It's just unbelievable. Let's talk a little bit about Public Safety Night. Have you heard anything about Public Safety Night?
I
When
have
the
not.
fireworks went off? Have you?
I heard the fireworks. I did not go to Public Safety Night. By all accounts, I heard that the fireworks were pretty good.
Okay, well, I
That's
got
what I
it.
heard as well. Everyone was very happy with the quality based on previous years.
Right. And our ace reporter, Silvio, has taken a Dixie on us tonight. Something to do with bugs being sprayed around his house there, ants, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So he's got to be home taking care of business, right? But the bottom line is that he will have, if he's watching, he can call in and give us a little report on what he saw. But I did get a couple of reports from different sources about what happened. It wasn't that big of a crowd as they had anticipated, although the traffic in the area was pretty much gridlocked past the golf course on Broadway Road, and they weren't allowing people to, park in different parking lots around.
Yes, I had heard that they had designated certain areas like the Greenmont School, Town Hall, and the library, and they were going to be shuttling people. Now, if that got to the majority of the people who wanted to go, that's all well and great, but it's sounding like that really didn't get to the people.
Yeah, we have a picture of one of the individuals who's directing traffic, and if you can show that picture, there he is. It looks like Pee Wee Herman.
I didn't know they were having clowns doing traffic.
You're good, Philip. You're good. But as you can see, he's doing a lot of work there. But I guess he was one of the people. You can see the traffic in the background, still backed up pretty much.
And we didn't I think we predicted that on this show.
Oh
right?
yeah, we did. And I mean, I haven't heard from any of the neighbors. I did hear from a couple of people that the traffic was really bad.
Yeah, so there's a shopping plaza directly across the street, Dracut Village, or I forget what the name. But on a Thursday night, there are restaurants there that are trying to operate. So you can imagine the restaurants are trying to maintain their
People
own
trying
parking.
to pick up their food for takeout.
Yeah,
and all
so that, and I bet a lot of people thought they could just park there.
Also heard that the chair of the Board of Selectmen ended up speaking at the public safety. Did you hear that?
I heard that she gave a speech also, yes.
A speech. Now, did she welcome the people, or did she tell people who from the Board of Selectmen were present?
No.
Was the manager even there? I don't even know. I hope Richard-
I heard the manager was there.
Yeah.
I had heard that towards, I guess, the end of the chairman's speech, she made the announcement, and we brought back fireworks that got crickets from the crowd.
Oh yeah.
And then Chief Bartlett had announced that Heather Santiago Hutchings was on the ice cream truck.
Yeah.
And I was told that there was such a roar and applause for Heather that she actually thought she won a prize.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yes.
That's funny, yeah.
But the left does want to stop fireworks. I don't know if you heard that.
What's that?
The left wants to stop
The
the
left.
fireworks because it adds to the pollution,
Oh, yeah, sure.
the smoke and-
yeah.
yeah.
You can't have fireworks, God, no.
especially with all the Canadian forest fires, right?
Yeah, right. But you can have fireworks in downtown Lowell and in Boston where they have to, I mean, Boston had fireworks in the streets. I mean, they had to have the street sweepers come down and clean up all
I did watch the Boston fireworks.
the Boston Pops.
Yep.
Yeah, how was
And,
that?
The music was good, but when the fireworks went off, you couldn't see anything. They had cameras behind a tree, so you couldn't see half the fire.
Really?
It was
I don't
still-
know who set it up.
And it was
but
still foggy, wasn't
it
it?
was very
I heard?
foggy. You couldn't see much. It was not.
Not the
It,
best.
it looked like a bunch of high school kids
So
putting.
for the Lowell fireworks, I found it interesting that they were letting them off at the dog park at the Hunt Falls,
Really?
which is kind of like remote from any other area in Lowell where a large crowd could congregate and watch them.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure if they're doing it because of the concern of pets and such, so they're trying to get it away from a population, but why would you light off fireworks if it wasn't near a population?
So, Phil, what's going on with the Betty Ann Lane? Have you heard anything recently about Betty Ann Lane?
It's been fairly quiet. I was talking academically to somebody about it, and I had raised the question whether the Board of Selectmen would grant them a club license, because clubs and lodges are permitted in residential zones.
Woo!
And the reception that it seems like everybody is bending over backwards to please this one particular resident rather than the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I just said it's just logical that the Board of Selectmen would grant a special permit to have a club.
Sure. Just like the Sandbar,
Correct.
right? And we have friends that live around the Sandbar, and they're involved in all of that stuff that's going on over there. Well, we have a caller calling me. Let's see, Moose. Hold on a minute, Moose. Let me get you on speaker here, Moose. Moose Morosky is actually calling on my line. Moose, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So I hope that you're going out over the TV, and I'm assuming that's what you called for, but you called my number instead of the number here at DATV. So what's going on, Moose?
Yeah, you can't get through on the number of the station.
Oh, you can't?
One ring and it's over.
Oh, it does. Oh, okay. We'll have to check that out. Another gremlin in the house.
It might have been from the fourth. They forwarded the phones to voice.
Oh yeah, the fourth is with us, right? So, go ahead, Moose. What's going on?
Well, a couple of things. I want a condolence to Hank Golick on the passing of his wife, and Frank McMahon. His sister passed away. My condolence go to them. But really, what I'm calling you about is I get the first football captain under Ed Murphy in 1946, Frank Sandelli's birthday.
Wow.
95 years old, 76 years married.
Wow.
Okay. And he'd like to come on the show and talk about Dracut Pride and what has happened at DHS, So that's that part of the thing.
We'd love to have him come on. Absolutely. We'll talk about that. We'll arrange that. All right?
Yeah.
Very good.
I think it's great. I mean, this individual looks about 60 years old. He's unbelievable.
95 years young. Wow.
And married 67 years. Ooh.
Oof.
Man, I'm battle scarred. I'm playing a football game without a helmet at 62. The other thing I'd like to talk about is, first of all, congratulate you on your freshman team at St. John's prep. You're loaded. I do have to say that. And you had another great season, which is your 37th?
It's my 39th year. I'll have 40 years
39
next year.
years, so you should be congratulated there. And Jake, my grandson, has gone to Central, so we had battles going on.
Yeah, you and I did. We did. We had some good fun. It's all in fun, though, Moose, right?
Oh, yeah.
But we had,
Oh, yeah.
Jake's a good player, and we were happy to beat his pants off that time.
Yeah. The other thing, I don't know if you're aware, we lost, we didn't lose, we lost a good restaurant, the Fireside in Methuen, which is owned by Dracut people, sold out, and that's going to be closing up to, it's going to be a car wash.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. They had recently done some extensive, renovations down there, putting a beautiful patio in during the COVID and what have you. Yeah, and those people they are from Dracut. Do you remember the name? I can't remember the names off the top of my head.
Yeah, Tommy Sucheski.
There you go, Tommy, and his wife's a school teacher.
LaFontaine girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember her name either, but she's a school teacher, I think, right?
Pauline is her name.
Right.
No, Tommy's wife is a school teacher in the
Right.
system. Yeah.
Right. So, hey, that's a big loss because that place was pretty good. I used to like that place.
Right on the corner there. I mean, I used to car wash them. Amazing.
Yeah. Well.
But that's it. I just wanted to touch on Sandelli, and we get him on the show, and he's just incredible.
We will do that. We absolutely will do that. All right, my
Okay.
friend? All right, say hello to Carol and everybody, and God bless.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's Moose Morosky, friends. A good friend of the show, good friend of all of us here at
Yep.
What's Happening Dracut. So we were talking about the Sandbar, right? So the Sandbar has had all kinds of issues with traffic and people parking all over the place. And recently, Deputy Chief Chartrand gave a report on, you can throw that picture up now, Nate, gave a report on the Sandbar. And they're still trying to figure out what's going on up there. What's your take on it, Phil?
Well, first of all, I mean, they're supposed to be operating as essentially a not-for-profit club,
Right.
and it's the farthest thing from it. Typically, clubs have membership requirements,
Right.
and have limited membership requirements. Well, I saw a recent ad in like a community values package,
Yep.
where they were giving away free memberships. So all of a sudden, if all the memberships are free, is there a cap on the number of memberships they have? Another thing that surprises me with Dracut is that the number of parking spaces required is based on one space for every 3 members.
Wow.
So if we have unlimited membership, then I suppose we have unlimited parking spaces.
Right. Oh, my word.
Yeah, so it's, I can understand trying to work with a business, but here's a business that said they were going to be good neighbors, and it's like, well, be a good neighbor.
Hey, let's just face it, Gordy, right? I've been up to the Sandbar before the new ownership. I don't know if you've been there since the new ownership.
I don't think since the new ownership.
Okay, so last summer I went up there, and the food was pretty good.
Yeah, it was,
and the
yeah.
atmosphere was nice. But let's face facts: you don't have to be a member. They were charging you $1
Yeah.
or $3 as a membership fee, which is really a scam, right? And but why can't, like Phil said, can't that guy up in Betty Ann Lane now just say apply for it?
I don't know.
He ought to apply.
I don't see the difference.
He ought to apply, and I wanted to reach out to the attorney who lives in the neighborhood, and his name escapes me right now, but he's been doing community input before the Board of Selectmen the last few months, and what will he do? What will that guy do for the neighborhood if he goes and applies for a club license, Phil? What kind of pressure is that going to put on the Board of Selectmen? He's a minority.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
A good way of describing a majority of the Board of Selectmen is milk toast.
Yeah, at least, yeah, at this point. Except, they're milquetoast except
except when
it's
they're-
political revenge,
Absolutely.
right? And, that's pretty evident in town everywhere you go. So I wanted to talk a little bit before we get into more political revenge. Let's talk about some of the musings and happenings around Dracut. Did you know the town hall was closed on Monday?
I did.
Yeah. Now, how does that happen?
Is everybody given an extra holiday, or do they have to take it out of their personal time, or
Well,
is it? How does that work?
it is I'm just like perplexed by it because, first of all of the members of the staff, police, fire, and town employees, they all have contracts. And their holidays, their paid holidays are listed.
It's documented,
They're
yep.
documented, they're listed,
Yep.
they're in the contract. Now, they give a day off. That means someone is working and someone isn't working. They're getting paid for the day off, right?
Possibly.
They're getting paid for the. Now, on the 4th of July, those police officers and firefighters at work, don't they get holiday pay? I believe they
so.
get holiday pay.
They may very
They probably
well.
get time and a half for a holiday, right? And that's factored in their whole thing. So what happens now with those guys? Are they going to get a day off plus pay? I mean, how do you do that? There's so many things. I mean, an extra day off? I mean, what do you feel about that, Gordy?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And the other thing is our trash pickup was extended
A day
the
late.
last week because we had June. Was it? I forget what it was, but they were supposed to pick our trash up Friday. They picked up the regular trash, but our recycle for our whole neighborhood was not picked up.
Wow.
So we had to leave it out because there was no communication that went out. So we left it out Saturday, no pickup. We left it out Sunday, no pickup.
Wow.
We left it out Monday, and lo and behold, the trash pickup did come on Monday. And I said, that doesn't make a lot of sense. If the town hall's closed, why did they pick up my trash on Monday?
Now, if you had a bill to pay, whether it be sewer,
Yeah, and I'm
water,
3 days later, they're not going to.
are they going to waive the
Waive the fee,
fees
yeah.
for 3 days late?
Right.
Because they closed at noon on Friday, and they didn't reopen until this morning.
Right.
Uh,
And
would you-
Tuesdays, they're long days. don't
Tuesday,
forget.
right. So, this coming Friday, they'll be closed at noon again.
So my birdies, my little birdies that fly around and that, that call me with all these different things, they was talking about how Ann Vandal was polling the board. You know that under the open meeting laws, you cannot poll the board for consensus on whether or not we're going to close Monday. It's an extra holiday. So there's a violation there, either ethical or otherwise. There's a violation there, and people are talking about it. And this is what happens when you have a government that's not watched by your local news, right? And your local news just lets everything go by. The Lowell Sun is like non-existent. If it wasn't for that lovely reporter from Dracut, the Dracut reporter, who is paid per diem. She's not on the staff. She doesn't cover the news. She just covers boards, right?
Right, and they won't always put in what what she writes.
Right. And what's her name again? I forget.
Prudence Bryan.
Prudence. Nice lady. They probably pay her in the dark in pennies, right? But the bottom line is, it's not the first time. I hear that there was another time that the board was asked to be involved with a off-site meeting. You've heard about this, haven't you?
I have heard about this.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that as I clear my throat?
So it's a developer, Kevin O'Brien, is looking to do a project out in East Dracut, Murphy Farm. And he's doing it as a 40B, so there's state involvement up front. So he made his application to the state back in January, I believe. And he hasn't heard back from the state yet, but he's been trying to build more consensus in Dracut. So he's gone to the Housing Authority, which has absolutely no authority over.
But he went to a public meeting at the House.
That was with the public meeting.
So there's a difference there.
Yes, but
and I mean, we can whack the Public Housing Authority
no,
on a lot of issues.
It's not so much to whack them, but to show that he's trying to touch base with essentially multiple authorities in
Right.
Dracut. So he's through Ian Vandal. He's been trying to make arrangements to meet with selectmen individually.
But Gordy, isn't that illegal?
I would say yes.
That's
but
meeting outside of the confines of the
stuff
public.
happens all the time.
Well, it shouldn't. It never happened when I was on the
You
board
ever
of
go to a
selectmen.
school function where they do a 50-50 raffle? That's not legal without getting a permit from the town and reporting it to the state, but that happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's a little different than a public
But I'm just
body.
saying, a lot of this stuff happens and it doesn't go. But my point is, if Phil did that, they would be all over it, right?
So Tony, plus another group of people from the Citizens Against
a constituency.
Right, met with Kevin O'Brien.
Right.
So it's not an individual. He's meeting with his constituency.
No, exactly. And he did. And by the way, he didn't get contact until after he had that meeting. From what I
Joe
understand.
DeRocco has met with Kevin O'Brien individually, privately.
Where?
Well, that I don't know, but I know they've met.
We'd like to find that out.
I know they have met.
That is a serious violation of open meeting laws. And
my understanding is Allison and Jennifer were pretty much ready to meet, except the question was asked to town council, is this a violation? And he came back with a yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, at least they had the forethought, or somebody had the forethought of asking.
I think that was actually Heather that had asked.
Oh,
and when the offer to meet with him was given by Ann, she said no.
I will bet you $1,000 that Janesse would have met with
absolutely.
him. Absolutely, because that's her
Total line.
So you would think, why are they essentially trying to broker a deal in secrecy?
Yeah. Which brings us to the bigger picture. The bigger picture is how it's not going to help the town to have a 40B in that area, except that the state is putting extra restrictions on us or wants us to do the affordable housing because of the MBTA law or whatever.
So the MBTA zoning is something very different than 40B. MBTA zoning actually does not have an affordable component to it. All they want is 1,250 market rate units.
Unbelievable.
The town can put a restriction of up to 10% need to be affordable, but there's no requirement from the state. The 40B is a law that was enacted back in the late 60s to try to essentially generate affordable housing.
Hey, I just got it. I just got the live feed.
Okay.
So now I got to make sure that my phone is down. So, in your opinion, that this is a violation? Would you?
Absolutely.
Think it's a violation? I do. I definitely think it's a violation of the open meeting laws, and I'm wondering who or what or when somebody is going to speak out about it, because it's just totally wrong.
So sometimes
Joe
with a
DeRocco's done that also, his whole life, his whole career.
So sometimes with a 40B project, you'll go to the selectmen because you want to work with the town rather than working against the town. That clearly is not the issue here. Kevin O'Brien doesn't care about the town.
No.
But to go and seek meetings with the Board of Selectmen to try to garner their support is something that should be done in an open session where the developer says, hey, I want to work with you. What can we do together? And that's clearly not happening here.
Yeah. So this is the second instance of Van Vandel reaching out to the board privately to set up a consent,
That we
to
know
gain
about.
consensus that we know about. Right. We don't know if there's ever any more, but maybe we need to do a FOIA on all the emails that have gone back and forth between the Board of Selectmen and the manager, because I'm sure that will reveal a plethora of information. Some of the things that were talked about with this extra holiday, giving it out, not only about how do we afford to do that, and how do people in the community do town business at town hall if the town hall is closed on a day before a holiday. I mean, there are people that have to pay their bills. I mean, did they have Juneteenth off?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
Most businesses, did you have Juneteenth off?
Nope.
You did
No.
not have Juneteenth off? No.
No.
See, if you are negotiating for an extra day off, usually they take a day back and give you, like, for instance, one of the days that's not a national holiday that you might want to say, well, we're not going to give you the day after Thanksgiving off or the day before Thanksgiving off or whatever, you know. But what are they going to do with these people? Isn't there a budget problem coming up? We have this kind of money to throw away?
Yeah, well, by the town manager's own admission, next year it looks like a $2.5 million deficit.
And the following year?
Is another minimum of $5 million.
And yet we just keep throwing the money out the door and letting things like this happen. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I really don't. So let's talk a little bit more about political retribution. We have a couple of people here, folks, in our panel that have experienced political retribution. I have too. I've gotten political
If
retribution.
you don't think it's real, it's real.
It's real. It's real. Now, let's talk about the Allison Jeunesse attack dog, right? Her husband, who she hides behind, lets him do all the attacking, and
Yep.
she's smiling out front and making speeches at the 4th of, you
Yeah.
know.
I have nothing to do with
I have nothing
what
to
he
do with
said.
it. That's his
Right,
business.
right.
I hate to tell you this, Ms. Jeunesse, Allison Jeunesse. In politics, you are going to pay at somewhere along the line for the sins of your husband, who was making a lot of noise around town. But I understand he's put a hit piece out, not only on you this time, but on Heather Santiago Hutchings.
Yes.
So, did you have a chance to see that hit piece?
I did. I read it. Much like everything he writes is quite the fantasy. But he alludes to that Heather was negligent in her duties by not reporting back to the Board of Selectmen on the zoning bylaw review committee. I would say that Heather brought back a number of things to the Board of Selectmen regarding the zoning bylaw review committee, in particular difficulty with having a member of the Board of Health not showing up. And that took probably about 4 months to get rectified, with 3 members of the Board of Selectmen fighting Heather at every single turn that they wanted to leave it that way, and so the zoning bylaw review committee was having trouble meeting quorum.
But why did they do that? Why do you think they did that?
Well, because they wanted to keep the member of, who was essentially perhaps beholden to Joe DeRocco and the like. So it was somebody they could control.
Right. And that had a lot to do, too, with you.
Well, I certainly came in after it. I had been a big supporter of trying to get a member of the general public on the zoning bylaw review committee. The makeup at that time was 2 members of Planning Board, 2 members of ZBA, a member from the Board of Selectmen, and then 2 members that kind of confused me, the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health. Now, both Conservation and Board of Health have their own regulations, and they don't intertwine with zoning. So why would you want to have them combined? It just confuses things.
Yeah.
But where the member of the Board of Health wasn't showing up, Heather kind of jumped on some of the things I had said about, let's get a member of the public on the committee. And she likewise thought that because the master plan was being referenced so often, why don't we get a member who was on the master plan to also be on the committee?
Right. So that was you, and you applied, and of course, political retribution again. But this hit piece on Heather in the Valley Patriot was quite scathing, and he quotes Joe DeRocco, and he talks. Of course, it's all that whole organized hate group known as the Joe DeRocco threesome, or whatever you want to call them.
The Gang of Three.
The Gang of Three. But they talk about how they're not getting a report from Heather, when in fact there's 6 different members, 6 different committees, Con, what else? There's zoning,
Planning Board.
that don't give reports.
Correct.
Right? And members of the Board of Selectmen are on those different committees, and nobody gives a report. In fact, the chairman was on NEMCOG.
How about the Beaver Brook Committee?
Oh, yeah, right. Well, I mean, she's always talking about the Beaver Brook Committee, so, which she shouldn't be on that one, the chairman, because I don't care what anybody says. And I don't, she didn't couch that to ethics the way she should. She wasn't honest with ethics. Let's say that.
No.
In our view,
she's an abutter. Dracut considers
She's
her
an abutter.
and Dracut considers her an abutter. So.
Right. That's how she got into the Board of Selectmen, anyways.
Yeah, but to your point, Alison Genest was over the past year a representative to NEMCOG. Not only did she not give a report at the Board of Selectmen, she never even attended a meeting.
How can you give a report when you don't attend?
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So I mean, here she is. So the backstory on this is that Heather was the representative to the zoning bylaw review committee, and with the reorganization back in May and the election, Heather got bounced off that committee.
Yes, I assume that Alison Genest believed that she was going to punish Heather for not giving a report.
Right. And
I mean, that's the only way I could
describe
it.
She did punish her.
Well, she believes she did. I mean,
but is there anybody?
To be honest, I think she punished or did a detriment to the zoning bylaw review committee, because she took off somebody who was on the ZBA for I think 3 or 4 years. So she was knowledgeable about zoning.
And who did she replace her with?
With herself. And I mean, here is an individual that, by her own campaign, was a political newcomer and never been involved in anything in Dracut previously until she ran for the Board of Selectmen.
And now she's an expert.
Now she's an expert on everything.
I wonder where that's going to go. So this guy, Genest, is just an abomination to Dracut politics. He's also an abomination on statewide politics. You've heard, I don't know if you've heard or not, the Howie Carr incident between him and Genest and Jim Lyons and the whole thing with the state Republican Party. He's a pariah with them.
He is.
People don't like him. I know that there's representatives in Lowell who just abhor him because of the things he does and the way he acts and how he goes after people. And I mean, I've been a victim of it too, as you well know.
I seem to be a monthly victim.
You are a monthly victim, but you know what?
But this show attacks people. He doesn't.
No. We don't. He doesn't attack anybody.
No.
No. We're the only attack dogs in the house, right? It's just amazing how ethically challenged this guy is, and I don't know if you can get a close up of this. Can you get a close up of this, Nate? I'm not sure if you can. Nate, are you there? If you can get a close up, here we go. This was on Howie Carr's page where Mr. Genest was involved with several different things involving the state committee. And Howie Carr really goes after him in a lot of rightfully so, because the party itself was in a shambles, and still is in Massachusetts. So be interesting to see how the future will hold with a presidential election coming up, and the people who are pretty powerful in Lowell on the Republican State Committee do not like Mr. Genest.
Yes, so I'll put a plug in for myself. I have another article coming out in the Valley Patriot. It's called Indivisible. Indivisible. So take a read about it. It's about local politics and national politics.
So, do you have anything else that you want to talk about zoning issues and what's going on in the zoning world?
So so there was a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee to try to get everybody back on the same page.
You attend those meetings?
I do as a member of the public.
As a concerned,
because I'm a concerned member of the public.
right?
And I have to admit, I've been honored enough that the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee welcomes my input, and they actually seek my input on a number of occasions.
How long is that going to last? Now
Well,
that
who
Genest
knows?
is on?
Now that Allison Genest is
Was she there at this last meeting?
So the joint meeting, as a selectman, she chaired the meeting, and she put down ground rules that this is how I'm going to run this meeting.
She's chairing the meeting now.
Well, the joint meeting.
Okay, the joint meeting,
The Zoning Bylaw Review Committee has a chair with Scott Mallory,
okay,
who's the
right.
chair of the ZBA. But she kind of indicated that at this joint meeting that only members of the committees would be allowed to speak only after they've been recognized by her, the chair, and that if anybody else was to speak, they would have to get a vote from both boards to be allowed to speak.
Really? What rule is this under? The Genest rule?
The Genest rule.
The Genest rule,
I
right.
guess she was visibly upset that I was sitting at the table, along with John Crowley and Bob Flynn.
So you were sitting there
Yeah.
and you
Because
could
I was
see-
invited to sit there.
Okay.
So I sat there.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there any other members of the public there?
There were a couple of other people, and they sat, if you want to call it, in the audience.
Yeah. Where was that
but
meeting
observing.
held?
That was at Harmony Hall.
And was it
was
televised?
televised by DATV, and would be available on, I think, special meetings or something like
Okay.
that, probably.
We're going to have to look at that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look at that and see. But this is where she rules with an iron fist on some things that.
Yeah,
you're
so
a political-
I mean, it was clear that she had some idea of what procedures are,
Yeah.
but absolutely no idea of what zoning is.
Right.
So I tend to think if you're going to be on a specific committee like this, and it really is a working committee, that you should be knowledgeable of the content.
Would you consider Heather a very knowledgeable person? In
Oh
zoning?
yes, to be
Now,
honest,
she's been
one
on
of I would say one of the smartest people I know.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Not in the same instance of Hunter Biden.
No,
versus Joe
but
Biden.
I mean, she likes to be well informed. She does her homework.
She does.
And she's open to other discussion as information's coming in.
Yeah, but she's also a victim of political vengeance.
Absolutely.
By the Board of Selectmen here
Yeah.
and members of the Board of Selectmen. So what did you discuss? What did they discuss?
So
during the-
it was really just a matter, like I said, trying to get everything back on track, and then towards the end of the meeting, Allison was wondering when the next joint meeting was going to be, and it's like, this should be the only one, because if you're trying to get these articles to town meeting in November, there's only 3 months left.
Right.
And the committee meets once a month. So there's no time to have joint committee meetings.
So what is the plan to get it into the public so that people understand?
Well, that's a big issue. I had been an advocate for visioning sessions, and,
Right.
and like with the master plan, we had, I think, nearly a half dozen visioning sessions to make sure that we were getting the public involved. We had surveys. As a matter of fact, I had worked with Allison Volpe to get a survey of high school seniors to find out what they thought about planning for Dracut. If we're trying to retain these kids, we need to know what they're thinking. And that actually got very good feedback.
Okay.
So this stuff should be happening all along.
And
Even
is there any plan for a visioning?
I don't know. I'm not on the committee.
But they didn't discuss that during the
No, not really, not really. I think it would be advantageous to hold a meeting in the Dracut Center in the Navy Yard in Collinsville. Go specifically to those high-density areas that people are very interested in. Go out to the Kenwood area or East Dracut and try to get people from the neighborhood in there, so you can explain what the thoughts are for the zoning changes, and what the reasoning is, and get their feedback.
So we touched on earlier the 40B project that Murphy and his development crew is involved with, and we talked about open meeting violations. But why don't you tell the folks a little bit about the project itself and how it's evolving into a huge, massive apartment complex?
So yeah, I mean it's a 50-acre site, and he's looking to put 300 units with each having 4 bedrooms. It's just an enormous sort of project. Unrealistic as far as I'm concerned, with everything having 4 bedrooms. It just seems to be unsustainable to myself. And I have worked on very similar projects, and you look for a mix of housing, so 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and some 4 bedrooms. But the predominance is being 2 bedrooms. It's a very large project, probably $200 million worth of construction over 5 years, I would think.
Check your messages.
But again, he hasn't, to the best of my knowledge, he has not received a response or an approval letter from the state. And it's been a number of months. I think the state is really looking at it and saying this one, on its face, looks like it may have been good, but as you dig into it, maybe not.
Yeah. And but so that's a long way from it coming to here.
Absolutely. So after the state, if he does get a state approval, then he would go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they would have their hearings that could take, probably 4 or 5 months, depending on what's being brought up, what questions there are, what kind of investigation and reports need to be done.
Yeah. So why would they be tiptoeing around this in the darkness of night and trying to build consensus with the Board of Selectmen offline? Why are they doing that? What at this stage?
Honestly,
it just sounds very
honestly,
nefarious.
Other than if the selectmen are trying to work some sort of deal, then that would require them to also pressure the ZBA, which would be way outside of their purview for an approval.
But we've had that in the past.
Oh yeah, it happens.
I mean, the manager has appointees on there, and the Board of Selectmen has appointees on there.
And I've heard a number, Jesse Forcier and Joe DeRocco often say, these people work for us, when he's referring to boards.
Are you kidding?
And it's like, no, these boards work for Dracut.
That's right. And they're appointed to give a perspective of a person from Dracut, not the perspective of the Board of Selectmen.
Correct.
And they're supposed to be an independent board.
Yes, and they should be working independently of their appointing authority.
It's like the Finance Committee, right? And the Finance Committee, has, sweeping authority to recommend or not to recommend.
Yeah.
But there's a member on that board that always says, well, our boss is the manager. Are you kidding me?
Furthest from the truth. Furthest from the truth.
Well, I don't know if she's still on there. She used to be on there, but she used to say
she is not.
She's not on
she's
there.
not
But she used to say the manager is our boss. And when I sat on the committee with her, I used to say, no. That's a check and balance. And I think there's a good mix of people on that Finance Committee now. Michelle Clement does a great job. Allison Navarro.
Sean Ash is
on there, and
Richie Cowan.
Richie Cowan. There's a good mix of people in there that are watching it, but I think they still tend to tread lightly sometimes. They don't want to step on the toes like I would. I mean, I would just
Cowan
ask questions.
got spanked a couple times for doing that.
Well, yeah, well, but I don't think that has really affected Cowan's effectiveness on that board. I think he's more tepid about how he approaches it.
Correct.
And I think he's more, he's less of a bull in the china shop type thing, and he's more of asking questions and trying to get results, But, I mean, he can give you some headaches because the guy knows what he's talking about
correct.
when it comes to many of the things concerning the budgets, and they don't like it because he questions things that the powers
want
that
to be
be
questioned
don't
on.
want questioned, right? But at any rate, hey, we have a picture that was sent in to us.
Yes, I want to get one of these.
Yeah,
by the
go,
way.
put this up here.
Nate, can you put up my screen,
Put up,
please?
yeah. And if you can focus in, it's the Richard Silvio fan club. Josh Taylor was wearing a T-shirt.
Yep. And
Right.
was this at the fireworks? It looks
This was, I believe it was at the fireworks. It was
it
at the
looks like it
public
might be.
safety night. Yeah, and
I
So-
want to get. We gotta get.
we got to
those
get
shirts.
those and wear them when
Yeah.
he comes on. Just
Yeah.
I'll pull them out and put them on
Yep.
because he's probably watching tonight.
We'll have to reach out to Josh and see if we can.
I
get
don't
some-
have a fan club. Do you?
No.
No, actually, we do have a fan club. It's called the Board of Selectmen. At any rate, anybody talking online here about what we're talking
No, just
about?
a bunch of people watching. Fred Perot, Rob Shepard, welcome.
Oh, welcome,
Yeah.
Rob. I owe you a phone call, and I will give you a phone call
Nick
very
D,
soon.
Josh Taylor, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
is
Josh
watching.
Taylor.
Yeah, Josh, let us know how we get some of those shirts.
Maybe we want to get a couple of those T-shirts. That's awesome. So, is there anything else in zoning that we need to talk about? I know there's a couple of projects that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, I mean, the next meeting for the review committee is July 13th.
Okay. So, where we beat that horse pretty much to death, can you tell me what's going on, if you know, anybody on the panel, if you know, what's going on at the end of the intersection of Broadway and I believe it's Nashua Road, behind the church that used to be the Knights of Columbus, across
Well,
from
it's Lakeview Ave in Nashua.
Lake, did I say, what did I say?
You said Broadway.
All right, Lakeview Ave in Nashua. And that parcel that was going to be a coffee shop or something?
It was
What's going
supposed
on?
to be a convenience store, coffee shop. I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of underground work was done there. It still has their approval for the.
Are they putting a new sidewalk in down Nashua Road, or?
So there was a
Telephone poles?
a redevelopment project for Nashua Road that was a realignment for the roadway itself and to put sidewalks. That was a state project.
State project. That's a state road?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And that project is, I think, an $8 million project.
Is that where they're putting up, they're doing some retaining walls and
Yep.
stone retaining
Yep,
walls?
yep.
Benefit of the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
It'll make the neighborhood
Absolutely.
look good.
And there'll be
Arlington was-
there'll be a satellite at the corner of essentially the intersection of Lakeview Ave and Nashua
That's a
Road.
T.
Yep.
T stop. Okay, yeah, that's good. But I'll tell you what I heard, and maybe we can do some underground research. I heard that the people who own that, something happened in their family, whether there was a death or something, and that the owner of the guy who was actually developing it had passed away, and now it's at a standstill. So it might not end up being developed. So that's something that we gotta try to get on. And the other project that I'm hearing about is across from Town Hall, and that is going to be a strip mall.
Strip mall, yeah. So multi-tenant, as far as I know.
Do you know who they own?
J&J Heating, Ayotte.
Eddie Ayotte,
Eddie Ayotte is still going
close
to
friend of
Joe DeRocco.
Joe DeRocco,
Yeah.
held signs for Joe DeRocco,
yeah.
and all of a sudden this beautiful big project is coming up over there and gets all kinds of
Yeah.
approvals.
All I know is Philip Tebow isn't the architect.
Phil
so,
Tebow's not the architect.
he wasn't
no.
ever even asked, but that's
Oh,
besides.
speaking of Phil Tebow being an architect, wasn't there a ribbon cutting open recently? And you were honored that the chairman of the board actually attended
So
the ribbon cutting?
There was a ribbon cutting at Collinsville Crossing is the name of the building.
Okay.
Essentially, right behind Polly's Corner in Collinsville.
Yeah.
I was notified less than 10 minutes before the ribbon cutting.
Did you attend?
I couldn't. I was on a phone conference. Had I known prior to that, then I could have made arrangements.
I
in my
wonder why you
schedule.
were notified 10 minutes before, less than 10 minutes before the ribbon cutting, right? This is just an extension of the overreach that these three people have.
So Allison Jess was cutting a ribbon for a building that I
That I
designed.
She can reap the benefit of your architectural.
It's not the first time.
It's not. It won't be the last.
She's been at least 2 other ribbon cuttings of buildings that I have designed.
By the way, Gordy, how many of these ribbon cuttings do you think there's been over the last 3 years?
Oh, geez.
It seems to be.
Has to be over a dozen, right?
Oh, well over a dozen. I was
yeah.
going to say maybe 2 dozen. And the
Yeah.
bottom line is, but Allison Janess and Joe DeRocco usually stick their mugs in there at every one of them. I wonder how many of them still exist. I know
I know there are quite a few that have
a few that I know
that have gone out of business.
weren't even around 6 months after the
Yep.
ribbon cutting. So, in your view, what kind of development has to, how big of a development has to come into town for it to have an effect on our tax?
Well, I mean, to try to move the needle from just 1% out of the residential into commercial, these days we're probably looking at somewhere in the $60 million range, if not more.
50 million.
50 to 60 million, yeah.
And, I mean, I knew
The
that
marijuana businesses has definitely been helpful.
How much is that really gained? I don't know. How much money?
Lazy River, I would say that was probably a $20 million project.
Okay, so that didn't really move
No.
the needle because it's
But
not.
we're getting the
Other than
local aid.
the local
local
tax.
tax.
That's going to
revenue.
go away too, some of it. Some of
Some of
that
it, yep.
local money that you're
But no, that
gaining
did
now-
help for the past
It
several,
did.
couple
it
of
did.
years. Yeah.
And it has. So interesting that we really aren't moving the needle.
Yeah, and it's, it's part of the cannabis money's included a 5-year impact fee, and I know the towns are trying to extend that.
Right.
But the impact fee is specifically for that, any impact that this business brings to the community. So if you need a set of lights somewhere in the vicinity of the establishment, then they have to put the lights in.
Right.
But you just can't say, give us 3% of your profits as an impact fee, and well, we're going to spend it the way we want.
Right.
That's not what it's for.
Yeah. Hey, Gordy, you heard anything on the school committee budget for the future and whether or not they're going to come to the public for a override?
I haven't heard anything, but I'm sure that. Well, I know the state changed the way they do the formula, so that helped them. That was net positive for the schools. I know several paras that I'm personal friends with, and they haven't been given a raise yet. I don't know where that stands, but I do have some feelers out for them, and I think they may want to come on the show and voice, let people know what their side of the story, because from my understanding, the school says they haven't got a raise in 5 years, and they don't plan on giving them a raise.
Well, with the budget situation that's coming up, I don't think there's going to be a possibility.
But you can't give them a 25-cent rate? You can't give them anything?
No, I guess, yeah. I know that Lowell has given their paras
Yep.
and certain teachers
Several communities around the area.
raise, and they're trying to bring up the paras a little bit more. I mean, most of them are only making $23,000 to $25,000 a year. I mean, some of them are part-timers, and
Yep.
they do that on purpose. But okay, we'll look forward to hearing some more information on that. But I want to get into some state and national politics, mostly national politics. We all heard about the Trump indictments. What do you think about them?
Unbelievable.
Political retribution at its
Yeah.
worst again, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's still, Georgia hasn't come out yet, right? For the
Of course it's going to come out. Of
Yep.
course he's
So
going to get
I think they're holding that back
Yeah.
to see what happens with
well,
the
they're holding it back to
documents.
get closer to the election.
Yeah, that too.
See what's happening. Yeah. What do you think on that?
It's just lunacy. I mean, Retribution, as you said.
Never in our history have we had that.
No.
Never in our history have we ever had that. What about Bidenomics? How are you feeling out there, folks, in Dracut? How's Bidenomics hitting you? How's that coffee when you go over there to Dunkin' Donuts?
It's not going to get any better.
It's not getting better at all. I just rode by a gas station in Dracut. It's $3.50 a
Yeah,
gallon.
you think that's bad. Wait for a few more weeks because Iran is attacking the oil ships coming
Yep.
out of the Gulf.
Yeah, imagine that.
So, guess what that means?
Yeah, Bidenomics. Everything
Price,
is up. But he's touting a
fuel
great
went up
economy.
3%. Oil oil went up 3% today, alone,
Yeah.
Up 3% today.
just today.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing talk of, a short-lived recession coming up. Even if it's 2/4 to half a year, it's still as devastating because you start losing employment,
Jobs.
and these people who can't afford anything to begin with have now lost their job.
And it's not getting better.
No.
And they can't. Now the problem is they can't raise interest rates because now people can't afford to buy anything. They already can't afford to buy anything. With the interest rates, they really can't afford to buy anything. And now it's going to flip big time.
Biden is touting that he's had more jobs.
Well, yeah, because everyone got laid off for COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not the jobs. They're not new jobs. They're reclaiming old jobs.
Reclaiming
Is what
old
they're
jobs,
That is what they're doing. And so he's saying, and then the wages he's saying are going up, but wages are not going up as fast as inflation.
No.
And that's why you get behind the eight ball on that.
And people are still claiming the COVID money to pay for their employees, so that's still being fed because you watch TV, you see that all the time. Apply for the small business loans from COVID. You can get up to $28,000 per employee.
So we continue to hear about the Trump indictments for BS, if you ask me, for all these documents that they supposedly had. And again, he's the president of the United States. He was the president of the United States. He has the right to just by thinking about it to unclassify a document. So it just doesn't make any sense. But yet Biden has hundreds of thousands of pages in a garage when he was vice president.
Yeah, but there was a lock on that garage.
Oh, there was a
door.
lock on the garage. Yeah.
You needed to
But
know the
does
4-digit
Does the
code.
vice president
Well,
have any rights?
the president had Secret Service guarding his house.
How about his senator? Biden
right.
takes documents out
How
of
do
a
you
skiff.
You can't get them out. How do you get them out?
Must have stuffed them down his pants by like the last guy that got indicted from down there doing that because
I don't know if you've ever been in a skiff. I've been in a skiff.
You have, yeah.
You can't breathe the wrong way in a
Right.
skiff.
Is
Like,
that
I
right?
don't know how these. It just baffles me. All these documents are getting out of us. I'm like, how, you can't bring a cell phone in. You can't do anything there.
So what about Hunter Biden's indictment? Yeah, you think he's sticking close to Daddy?
his
He's
brush
been
off?
He's been up Daddy's butt so big.
He's on probation for 2 years. Big deal.
Well, he hasn't. It hasn't gone yet. It's got to go before the judge now. We'll see whether that happens or not. But it's pretty obvious that the mainstream media hasn't taken any of that, hasn't gotten into any of that. But every picture you see now with the president, Hunter's in the background, right?
With a short leash.
With a short leash, right?
We hope.
And he's the smartest person.
Smartest
you know.
person that Joe knows. I
Right.
guess Joe doesn't know a lot of people.
Which brings us to a suspicious package at the at the White House was found over the weekend, and it was found just before or around the time after the Biden family had left to go celebrate the holiday at Camp David. But you have a report, right?
Yes.
Let's put that up. Can you put the computer up? There you go. Nate, we got a problem with sound here?
The U.S. Secret Service says new test results confirm the unknown item was in fact cocaine.
When it comes to security, when it comes to anything of those types of protocols, that is something that Secret Service handles.
Multiple first responders rushed to the White House on Sunday after agents found the powdery substance inside the West Wing. The White House temporarily evacuated. ABC News now obtaining this radio traffic of D.C. Fire and EMS first responders discussing the preliminary test results of the substance.
We have a yellow bar stating cocaine.
President Biden, the First Lady, and family members, including Hunter Biden, were all seen together Friday, leaving on Marine One to celebrate the holiday weekend at Camp David. They were not present when the cocaine was found and the building evacuated. The White House frequently undergoes security sweeps, but it's unclear how long the bag of cocaine had been in the West Wing before agents found it. The illegal drug was reportedly found in an area where some visitors are instructed to leave their phones while visiting the White House. Tours with access to that space typically happen on the weekends, but asked when visitors were most recently in that area, the Secret Service declined to answer. Now, the agency says those details are pertinent to their investigation as they try now to narrow down who had access to the West Wing around the time the cocaine was discovered. It is not yet clear how long this investigation will take, but the Republican-led House Oversight Committee is requesting a Secret Service briefing on the matter.
The ABC News for that report.
That's an ABC News report. Amazing that it found its way into the West Wing.
Now, John, let me just ask you this question.
Yeah.
If someone were to go into your house and found cocaine, who would be responsible for the possession
I'd be in
of that?
trouble. I'd be let out in handcuffs.
Right.
Be
Correct.
let out in handcuffs.
So, someone lives in the White House, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain person that lives in the White
Yep.
House.
Not going to happen.
Right, exactly.
Of course.
But if Trump
we
was
ever
in there,
really know what
if Trump was in there,
Oh my
he'd
God!
be arrested right
It
now.
would be all over mainstream media that Trump was snorting cocaine, or Don was.
Yeah.
One of the other, the young Don, right?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what they've done. It's 2 tiers of justice here. In our
So
country.
I heard on a radio show one person bring up the fact that, okay, this was found in a backpack. Where have you gone anywhere in a government building that backpacks are just allowed through without being
And
searched?
You can't tell me there's not cameras every room in
Yeah.
in the White House. There's got to be
can't get through the
security.
gates.
There's security cameras, so you got to know that they know who's.
Yeah.
Someone set that down. It's all on camera, baby.
Perhaps a delivery for someone.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, do you think that might have been a way for Hunter to get the cocaine into the house that he's hiding in?
And Dad said, "Oh, we're leaving on a trip," and he said, "Wait a minute, Dad, I have to pick something up."
Yeah.
How do you feel, Gordy, about a person who has a child out of wedlock? And, many people in America do, and I'm not being judgmental by that, but what do you think of them not acknowledging their child?
Yeah, that's a
Is
problem.
it sad? Is it sad that the
Well, you're
president...
running from your responsibility, right?
The father Hunter is out there fighting not the wife, the girlfriend, fighting the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend who mothered, had his child, and doesn't want to give her the name. And Jill and Joe won't even acknowledge him. What kind of people are these?
Oh, it sounds like royalty from England.
Oh my God! What kind of individual would do that?
I've never heard of this before, but I actually work with someone that the man took the wife's name.
Oh, really?
Yep, because they had a famous name. They're popular in the Pennsylvania area, so they didn't want to, and they didn't have any sons. The parents didn't have sons, so they wanted their name to continue, and he agreed.
But if you're, God forbid, and Jen, please don't get upset by this, but if your son had a child,
Yep.
and
Out of wedlock, I would want to be in that child's life.
you would want to be.
Yeah, I would.
But here's the president of the United States that has 7 grandchildren, but he only
It's
talks
your
about
blood.
6.
It's your bloodline.
Oh, not the Biden bloodline.
Yeah.
Right? Not in the Biden bloodline, according to... Listen there. Listen,
Yep.
Not a joke.
Not a.
Can you believe it?
Come on, man.
Well, I guess
Come
he
on,
believes it's a
man.
lot of malarkey. I don't know.
It just boggles my mind as to how the
He could do
American
push-ups.
public...
He could do push-ups.
Oh, yeah.
with Greg.
Have you seen him do push-ups? Have you seen him?
Come on,
He can't
man.
even
You want to
walk.
go right now?
He
You
can't
want to
even
go right
walk.
now?
He's shuffling across the lawn here, and Jill's trying to hold him up.
Well, he does push-ups when he falls.
Oh, my
He has
God.
to push himself up.
So not only was there a suspicious powder found at the White House recently, but the White House and the Biden administration has had an injunction put upon it, right? And that's for censoring during COVID. You got a video on that. And a judge recently issued injunction against the government from coordinating with social media and censoring information. Can you believe that, Phil? Huh? Has that ever happened?
I believed it happened, and I'm glad to see a judge put an injunction on
I'm
it.
just curious, and I haven't heard yet, who appointed the federal judge.
I heard it was a Trump judge.
It was a Trump judge?
Although judges should be acting independently after,
Right.
after their appointment. So.
Right, and they should very
Yeah.
well be doing that. But have you ever heard of anybody being, lambasted for that particular thing? I mean, seriously. I mean, we've witnessed it. We've experienced it here
Yeah.
in Dracut that people are trying to shut us up and
Yeah,
shut other
yeah.
shows on. You got it queued up. All right, we're going to give you a video on what happened
Fox News.
From Fox News. A judge issues an injunction for censoring the U.S. government.
And I will tell you, my take is that this is going to hold up on appeal because everything that...
Former Director of National Intelligence, sir, good morning to you, and thank you for your time on this July 5th. Here's what the court said by the Judge Terry Doughty. During a period perhaps best characterized by widespread doubt and uncertainty, the United States government seems to have assumed a role similar to an Orwellian ministry of truth. What is really telling is that virtually all the free speech suppressed was conservative free speech. What do you think about this? COVID was going on. You got a new administration in the White House. What's your take?
Well, I think that language reflects that this was a stunning rebuke, but also an appropriate one. And I will tell you, my take is that this is going to hold up on appeal because everything that the plaintiffs in this case allege has been proven largely to be true. So, when you think about with respect to COVID-19, everything from the origins, lab leak, the efficacy of certain treatments, the transmissibility. I mean, you just heard President Biden talking about pandemic of the unvaccinated. All of that was frankly wrong, and yet Americans' ability to engage in honest debate about it was suppressed. And so you have these agencies with social media working to suppress the truth and amplify lies. And with regard to the issue of the Hunter Biden laptop and election interference on that front, as you recall, Bill and Dana, on October 18th of 2020, I came out as the Director of National Intelligence and said, this is not Russian disinformation. We have no intelligence of that. That was based in part on the fact of my conversations with the Department of Justice and the FBI, with Bill Barr, with Director Wray, that the FBI had that laptop and that it had been verified and was being used as part of what was described as a money laundering investigation. And yet at that very same moment, we learned through the Twitter files that there were FBI agents at that very moment contradicting that with social media executives to, again, suppress the truth and amplify a lie about that ultimately, could be characterized as a domestic disinformation campaign before a presidential election.
John, the Washington Post wrote this, that the judge's move could upend years of efforts to enhance coordination between the government and social media companies. A question for you beyond COVID, which I think is one of the best examples. Is there a need for federal government agencies, especially the DNI or any of the intelligence agencies or the FBI, DOJ, to be communicating with social media companies to prevent attacks? Because I'm assuming that that's where the opponents of this decision are going to come down and say, but yet don't they need to be talking to them to hopefully prevent something that we haven't seen happen yet, we hope doesn't happen, but that could happen?
Absolutely, Dana, and they're right in part by saying that it's upended years of work of important collaboration, because we do have foreign adversaries that are trying to misinform the American public to sway elections. That very much can happen. We know those efforts have happened from our foreign adversaries. The problem, Dana, is in this case that the
Gordy, do you think that this is a real serious issue? The Ministry of Information or disinformation?
Yep.
Do you think it's still happening?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, do you know anybody?
Well, I mean, I think Twitter has made a huge change because obviously, right, Elon Musk has taken over.
Right.
And he doesn't allow it, but Facebook, other social media platforms, Instagram, WhatsApp, all those, that stuff is definitely still happening.
So you're a social media guy, right?
You can test it. I mean, you post something on Facebook, it'll get taken down
If it's something anti-Biden
right.
or whatever.
And it probably won't if you only have a few views on it, but if you get something that gets thousands of views, they're going to take it down, and then you'll get kicked off for a week.
Yeah. So Phil, what do you think about all this stuff?
I found it interesting that within the decision, they also named quite a few departments.
Really? Yeah.
CDC and FBI, CIA. They named departments and specific people within those departments that they have restricted from contacting anybody in social media.
Do you think the FBI has lost credibility over the last couple of years?
Certainly taken a big hit.
I mean, the FBI has always been tainted, even during the J. Edgar Hoover years when he was spying on politicians and using it as a political arm for himself, actually, to boost up the FBI. But now the FBI is just so bad. It isn't. I mean, I don't know anybody that would talk to them. Well, I mean, you're going to let them in your house at any point because they'll fabricate.
Well, they'll get in one way or the other.
Yeah, and they'll
knock the door down, break the windows.
There really has to be something done with that. And have you watched any of those hearings that Comey, Representative Comey? Is it Comey or whatever, that is using their powers to bring information in, and whistleblowers and all this stuff? Do you think the FBI had the Hunter Biden laptop for all of the term of Donald Trump and his own FBI?
Right. If you have one whistleblower, you can question it, but they have 3 to 5 different people,
right,
all saying the same thing, all totally agreeing.
What about an audio tape of the president actually on a call?
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be interesting.
You haven't heard anything about that, have you?
No, you haven't heard that recently, no. But right now, all of our Democrat friends out there in Dracut land, their heads are exploding. We'll probably hear from one when we go for dinner afterwards. Yep. But the bottom line is that they just can't admit that the man is, that everything's gone awry until they knock on their door. Yep. And we see that there's going to be an issue with them, right? Do you know that there's a person in Dracut that was actually arrested for the insurrection, the alleged insurrection?
No, I didn't know that.
And we're looking into it, and we're going to.
Well, I thought it would have been you.
It might have been, because if I didn't, I would have went to Washington for that. I went to the inauguration, but hour and a half just flew by again. Yeah. The show just flies by, and we have to say goodnight. Right, Gordy, take it away.
Well, folks, we enjoy your company. Glad we had to actually have a caller tonight. It's great to hear from you guys. Just know that we're looking out for the people and the taxpayers, which is you in Dracut. And when it's Wednesday and it's 6:30, it's What's Happening Dracut. Good night, Dracut.
Good night, everybody.